Phase 4 is right around the corner, and that means we are halfway through World of Warcraft Classic. Blizzard just recently released a poll last week that was asking people if they would like to see TBC Classic, how they would like to see it. On top of that, we also have an unprecedented amount of extra time on our hands because most everyone is working from home because of this massive coronavirus pandemic. Don't get me wrong, this is a terrible tragedy for the entire world, but it also opens up a new opportunity for everyone that plays games like World of Warcraft to do something that takes up a lot of their time that they didn't have before. And that is to level and alt. This is the absolute best time pretty much in the world to ever level and alt. Namely, we have extra time, and also Phase 4 comes with a lot of catch-up mechanics if you're not doing high-end tier raiding. On top of that as well, it's actually pretty easy to do the last raids. You can do Blackwing Lair, you can do Molten Core, basically running with pre-bis gear. And you'll be able to hop into ZG and get a lot of catch-up gear right out of the gate after you hit level 60. So today, we're going to go over what exactly is the best class to level for your alt. My name is Sarthe, and let's get right into it. So there's a couple questions you need to answer before you figure out which class you want to level for your main alt. If you don't already have an alt, which most people honestly probably do, but a lot of people are also leveling their third alts. As you can see, I leveled my warrior recently because I wanted to play warrior. I will be making some TBC class guides, and this will go over extreme specifics of each class, the pros and cons, but this video is a little bit more of just a conversation about what the best class is as an alt right now in World of Warcraft Classic. Here are the real questions you want to ask yourself before you choose what you want to play as an alt. What do you want to play? This is kind of an innate question. What feels good to you? We've been playing World of Warcraft for the last 20 years, and there's classes that a lot of people never got to try out, or that you see somebody doing something and you actually want to do that. A lot of people see like a rogue and they want to actually do some PvP. Even if you don't like PvP in Classic, you do like World PvP. If you really like to be the top parser in your guild, you might want to level a warrior and go for the min-max strategy. If you want to farm gold, you also might want to run like a mage or a hunter. But what feels natural to you? What do you have that natural inkling to play? The next thing to ask yourself is, what's easy to level? And this is kind of a skewed, charged question because right now everything is easy to level. If you have enough gold, you can get literally anyone to power boost you through all of the dungeons and basically AFK your way to level 60. If you run to wherever any of the dungeons really are right now, you will see a lot of mages posting that they are doing runs for a certain amount of gold, or you'll see people posting trying to buy runs. So there's a little bit of two things here. You can be the class that is doing the runs, and you can sell the runs for gold and make extremely good money. You can make thousands of gold a day doing this, or you can just AFK, pay somebody to run you, and boom, easy levels. The other thing to think about which class is easy to level, it's also kind of which class is fun to level. All of the classes are pretty easy to level now because you have a main and you can pretty much basically twink them out per level bracket. You can buy gear, you can buy enchants, and you can level them really easy. So the most fun classes to level are pretty much whatever lives out your dream fantasy of the class you want to play. You may want to ask yourself what your raid team needs, because your raid team might be doing split runs, you might be joining another raid, you might want to try raiding on a different character, so you have to level something that your raid team needs. A lot of times for Alliance, that's probably Paladins, and for Horde, it's Resto Shamans, but you can level up pretty much whatever you want. A big factor could be what's easiest to gear, and that would be classes like a Hunter or a Druid, because you're not going to see a lot of competition and you can hop into raids and get full tier gear in pretty much however long it takes for it to drop. The last questions you want to ask yourself before actually going into each class individually are, what can make you money, which is basically every class, but everyone knows that a Warlock can do Maraudon farms, a Mage can do almost farming anything, a lot of AoE farms and a lot of boosting runs to make a crazy amount of gold. Priests and Warlocks as well can do jump runs, and you can also do a Hunter and do tribute runs. But there's other farms for every class, so what can make you money moves into the next points. What's the most fun for PvP and PvE? This is like actually the only thing that really matters. What's the most fun to play? Do you like to PvP? Then level a class that's really fun in PvP. If you like to PvE only, level a class that's only fun in PvE. I have a mage, and honestly, playing a mage right now in Classic is extremely boring to raid, but it's really, really fun to farm, and it's really, really fun in PvP. But to raid, it's basically using one button most of the time. You have to use your cooldowns, there's a little bit of min-maxing, but it's not really that fun, especially coming from a rogue and paying attention the entire fight to make sure that you're min-maxing. That's why I leveled up a warrior, so that I could raid on a second class and have just as much fun. And then the mage can be used to farm, make me gold, and to PvP. So keep all of these questions in mind, and we're going to go over every single class individually. Starting with my favorite class, the Rogue. The Rogue plays out my exact class fantasy for all of World of Warcraft. I like being stealthy, I like doing damage, and I like to PvP. Rogues are good at basically all of those things. Rogues are extremely good at PvP, you can outplay almost anyone. Rogues were really fun to level. It was a little underpowered while you were leveling the very first rogues, but now you can gear them out and they're very easy to level. They're very fun in PvE, and they are the second strongest class basically throughout Classic. Casters are going to start catching up a lot more now that they're going to get hit, and I'm going to go over that as well. Rogues are very easy to gear, and they have some really good gear in ZG for your catch-up gear. The only really bad thing about rogues in PvE and gearing them is that you have a lot of competition. There's a lot of characters that are going after the exact same gear as you. Early on in Classic, warriors were going for the exact same leather pieces as you, but now it's pretty much that everyone wants the weapons, they'll never drop, and everybody wants Drakefang Talisman. But this is going to be your ult. You're not going after those high-end pieces anyways. So Rogue, I believe, is one of the most fun classes to play. We're going to move on down the list through characters that I have so far, and then we are going to go specifically into the other characters. The next class is the Mage. It seems like everybody is leveling a Mage ult right now. Mages are the bread and butter of money-making classes in Classic. The reason for this is because mages can not only do the best AoE farms, but they can also do the best boosting runs. And you can get paid 10 gold a run from 4 people in your group to run a 10-minute or 12-minute Maraudon one pull clear. Mages play out an extremely fun class fantasy of being either a Frost or Fire Mage, just pumping out damage and being the iconic caster of any RPG. The biggest downside that I see to mages is also a similar downside that I will point out for most of the casters currently. And that is that raiding on these characters is honestly not the most fun. Just yet though. Things are going to change within the next patch or the patch after that. In AQ, mages get to go fire, and they are so much more fun. You're going to do rolling ignites, you're going to do insane damage, you're going to see these very high crits. It's going to be a lot more fun than just spamming Frostbolt all the time. If you play a mage now, you know what I mean. If you play a Warlock, you also probably know what I mean with Shadow Bolt. Mages can also AoE farm in ZG and other places to level extremely fast, a lot faster than any other class in the game. It's almost unfair. Warriors are the quintessential king of Classic. Warriors consistently are the best class for their roles no matter what throughout all of Classic. Warriors are the best tanks in the game, bar none. And then warriors also are the best DPS in the game, bar none. The one thing to keep in mind the most is that warriors scale completely due to their gear. It's an exponential scaling growth, so a warrior that's undergeared or a fresh 60 warrior is going to be significantly weaker than a fully raid geared warrior. In AQ 40, warriors actually get a large step above everybody else, and then it moves even further in Naxxramas. So moving forward, if you're going to switch your main, a warrior would be a very, very good pick. It's also a really good pick if you're going to do split runs, because a warrior is going to be doing a lot more damage, especially when they're world buffed. The biggest downside to warriors in PvE is that the competition for their gear is extremely high. There's not that much gear in the raids just yet, and you usually will see warriors being the most run class in your raid, so the competition for all of your gear is going to be ridiculous. So warriors are a harder class to level as your alt right now, but if you intend to do actual raiding on them, they're an extremely fun class for that. Warriors are also a great class to PvP on. They're one of the most powerful and one of the most fun classes to PvP on, but once again, they rely heavily on their gear, and it's also not very easy to be a warrior in PvP without a pocket healer. But if you have a pocket healer, running arms warrior, you can run in and two-shot basically anyone. So warriors are extremely powerful in PvP. They can feel extremely gimped though while you're leveling or before you get geared. The next class I want to talk about is the Hunter. Hunters are considerably the easiest class to level. They've always been the easiest class to level, so if you watch any of the speed runs, Hunters were the fastest class to level, other than mages, which can AoE farm to level. Hunters, on the other hand, are the easiest class to level out in the open world. You have extremely good mitigation by having your pet to tank for you, and also it can save you in dire situations, or you can use Feign Death. Hunters do very good DPS while leveling, but the only downside to them at max rank would be that in PvE they don't do the most damage. Every raid runs usually 2 to 3 hunters, maybe only 1 hunter if it's Molten Core or less, but you usually run 2 to 3 hunters for trank shot and because they are necessary for pulls. A good hunter is invaluable to a raid team. Pulling the right mobs at the right time can increase the speed of a raid significantly. Hunters are also extremely good at gold farming. You can run Dire Maul tribute runs, and then you can actually sell the buffs for 5 gold a pop. There's a hunter on my server, and I featured him in my World Buffs video, and he's honestly makes probably thousands of gold a day, just clearing Dire Maul tribute and then just sitting there selling buffs. In PvP, hunters are one of the strongest classes in the game. If you're doing a 1v1 and you catch somebody out of stealth or out of range, you can kite them indefinitely. It's pretty much impossible to catch and kill a hunter for most classes. So a hunter is actually extremely powerful, especially when they get geared. Multi-shot can almost two-shot a mage. It's pretty crazy. Hunters also live out one of the best class fantasies in the game. This is one of the most iconic classes of all of World of Warcraft. This is the first class that I played in World of Warcraft when I was a little kid, probably 8 years old, and it took me 19 days playtime to level it up. It was extremely fun, and I believe Hunter, if I were to level anything else again, would probably be that character I want to level, mainly because it lives out the class fantasy and it feels very World of Warcraft RPG to me. The next class is the Druid. Druids are extremely versatile classes because they can tank, DPS, or heal. The only thing about that in World of Warcraft Classic is that Druids being a hybrid class kind of puts them behind every other class in both tanking, DPSing, and healing. They aren't the best tanks, they're very good at holding aggro, but they aren't the best tanks in the game. We usually run 1 in our groups. They aren't the best healers in the game. We usually run 1 in our group as well, and that's mostly because of Mark of the Wild. And they also are not the best DPS in the game. But they are actually one of the most fun classes to play in the game, and they do also live out that class fantasy. Playing a Druid is really fun. Shape-shifting just honestly innately feels good. If you pull too many mobs, you can move into bear form, but leveling, you're basically a rogue in cat form. You also get travel form, so you never really need to buy a level 40 mount, and you can level a lot faster than most people because you can get around a lot faster, especially at those early levels. At max rank, it's probably the easiest class to get your tier gear, because you're usually going to see only 1 to 2 of them per raid group. So no matter what tier piece drops, boom, it's yours. Druids are extremely easy to gear out, which makes them one of the best classes for alts, but they're also one of the weakest classes in all of their retro specs. In PvP, Druids can be invaluable, both in healing, tanking, flag running, and you can go boomy boy. The next class I want to talk about is the Warlock. Warlocks are kind of like hunters in the fact that they're extremely easy to level out in the world, mainly because you have a Voidwalker that can tank for you. At max level, Warlocks are one of the most fun classes to play in PvP, and honestly, they're one of the most powerful classes. You have an extremely high health pool, and you're almost unstoppable in a 1v1. I don't know if you all paid attention to the CDL, which happened at the beginning of Classic, but they had to nerf Warlocks multiple times in the rulebooks, but a Warlock still ended up being significantly higher on a win-loss ratio than any other class. Because Warlocks don't get any hit from their talents, they need all of their spell hit from gear. This is extremely hard to do right now, but it's about to be a lot easier with the Bloodvine set coming out in Phase 4. ZG also hosts some of the best hit gear for spellcasters in the game. You're going to get both of your rings, and there's also the hit cloak, which is going to be the best cloak for casters in the game. Things are about to change for Warlocks. Up until now, it was a lot more RNG based in their raid DPS. It can kind of feel like you're just there to be a curse bot and you're spamming Shadow Bolt, but you're just seeing resist, 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 hit, resist, resist, crit. You get that one massive crit, which feels great, but you're also right up there on the damage meter all of a sudden, and you're right up there on the threat meter. Warlocks are going to get a lot more spell hit, so you're not preying on your RNG to see if you resist. It's actually just going to be a lot more fun to play in PvE. Warlocks will maintain their status as one of the most powerful classes, and from here on out, moving forward, in AQ, they become one of the best caster classes, and in Nax, they're insanely powerful. So moving forward, Warlocks are a great class to play, and a very, very fun class as well. The next class is going to be the Priests. Priests are the quintessential healer of World of Warcraft. Throughout every expansion, Priests are one of the most powerful healers no matter what, so this is a great class if you're going to end up transferring over to World of Warcraft TBC. Priests are invaluable to every raid as one of the most powerful healers in the game. You can see Priests going Discipline, Holy, or Shadow. Shadow never really steps it up in this expansion as one of the top DPS classes, but during TBC, Shadow actually surpasses almost every class in a few of the content levels. So you can finally be that DPS god. Shadow's also one of the most fun classes to play in PvP right now. It's extremely hard to beat a good Shadow Priest in a 1v1 fight no matter what class you are. If you like to be a healer, you can't go wrong with choosing Priest. Priests have hots, they have bubbles, and they also have extremely good heals. They also have AoE raid heals, so Priests are one of the most fun healers to play and also one of the best healers to play. Leveling as a Priest, you actually rely a lot on your wand, but Priests get a talent that increases their wand damage very early on, and Priests can be ridiculously powerful just sitting there wanding people. Gearing the Priests, there is a bit of competition, but it shouldn't be nearly as bad as playing a melee class like a rogue or a warrior. Because we're talking about healers, the next healer is probably the best healer in the game. Each of the factions, Horde and Alliance, have their own individual class, and both of those classes tend to be actually the best raid healers in the game. Paladins have the most utility out of any class, and their blessings are absolutely invaluable to any raid team. Paladins are pretty much the reason why Alliance are usually the fastest clears in all of World of Warcraft Classic, because their blessings are just that powerful. Protection Paladins are extremely good for AoE tanking, so things like dungeon farming or leveling, Most high-end raids probably won't run a prot tank, but you might be able to find yourself a slot somewhere. As a Paladin, you can play all 3 specs and it'll be really fun. DPSing as a Paladin is really fun for PvP. You can see people reckoning bombing and one-shotting people. So being a Ret Pally, it's known somewhat as a meme spec, but it's probably one of the most fun meme specs. And also to play prot is probably one of the most fun things you can do as well. I would say the biggest downside of playing a Paladin is they're not necessarily the best in either of their other roles as DPS or tanking. But if you're gonna level as a Ret Paladin, or if you're just gonna level a Paladin in general, you might want to consider the boosting route and just buying runs, because it can feel a lot like you're just auto-attacking all the time. Nevertheless, Paladin is one of the most powerful classes, if not the most powerful class, in all of World of Warcraft Classic, especially for utility. Warriors are the best at DPS and tanking, but Paladins are extremely useful for utility. With that being said, let's move right on to the Horde equivalent, somewhat, of Paladins. And that is the Shaman. I'm keeping this up because this is the ugliest Shaman of all time, but whatever. Shamans are the Horde equivalent of the Paladin. And as such, you'll need multiple Shamans in any good raid group. Wind Fury Totem is the biggest increase to the DPS of any melee class. Tremor Totem is extremely useful because if you get feared or if your tank gets feared, it can wipe the raid. The Resistance Totems are extremely useful as well in all of the raids right now. So Shamans are one of the most sought after classes in all of World of Warcraft Classic endgame. That being said, that is referring specifically to Resto Shamans. Leveling as a Shaman is pretty fun because once you start getting Wind Fury, every time you see a Wind Fury proc, it just feels really good. At endgame, a Elemental Shaman will never out DPS a good warrior or a good rogue, but it feels great to play. Ellie Shamans, because of spell batching, can one-shot literally anyone in PvP. So an Ellie Shaman is probably one of the most fun classes to play in PvP, especially in Battlegrounds where there's team fights, people aren't attacking you, and you're getting off these massive chain lightnings. Enhanced Shamans are also extremely fun to play in PvP because if you get a good Wind Fury proc, you can one-shot anyone as well. So it's like the meme spec classes are kind of the very best at one-shotting everyone else. Both of these specs are a little bit gimped and, as I was saying, a little bit meme when it comes to endgame raiding. Most high-end raiding guilds will not take either of these classes. But one of the most interesting things about what's coming out in the future is Classic TBC. Shamans become one of the most fun classes all around and also one of the most powerful. Every high-end raid group will be running probably at least one Enhanced Shaman, maybe one Elemental Shaman. So this is a very good class to level up to see if you like it, because you might want to be playing this in the next expansion. On top of that, every single raid group out there needs as many Shamans as possible. It seems like Resto Shamans are the hardest thing to find, and those are the thing you need the most as a Horde raid group. So leveling up a Shaman will almost guarantee you a spot in a raid group. You can gear the Shaman up pretty quickly. The competition for gear is decently hard, but you can also take mail, leather, and cloth gear. So keep that in mind, you're going to be stealing all of your priest gear. With that, we actually round out going over every single class in World of Warcraft Classic. If you ask yourselves the questions that I asked at the beginning of this video, and with the knowledge that you probably have if I didn't teach you anything here, because I didn't go into depth on any of the classes per se, you should be able to decide which class is going to be your favorite for leveling an alt. We're halfway through World of Warcraft Classic, and this is the perfect time to level up another alt or your first alt. But the best thing really to do while leveling up an alt is to enjoy it. The only point we play this game is to have fun. So whatever class, you're going to have the most fun playing. If you have fun PvPing, level up one of the best PvP classes. If you have fun farming gold, level up one of the best gold farm classes. If your version of fun is to min-max, then level up one of the best classes for that. I can't really tell you exactly which class to level because every class is extremely viable in different respects of the game, but I think this is the best time to just level a character that it doesn't have to be the most conventional, just what you want to do, what you want to have fun with. I hope I helped you guys out in deciding what you want to level, and if you like my content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because it means a lot to me and it helps me out, especially during these crazy times in the world right now. I am streaming every Tuesday on my rogue, doing the min-max thing, every Thursday either playing casually or playing my warrior usually, and then every Saturday I'll be on my mage, not necessarily doing the min-max thing, but just come hang out anytime if you're bored. Let's have a good time, enjoy leveling up that alt. Honestly, I enjoy the leveling process, so this is going to be a great time being home, working from home all the time right now. Good luck out there, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.